Hey beautifuls. Okay, hopefully I don't yawn my head off because I was just like, I'm like, cool, let's go live. And then I'm like yawning my head off. I'm like, okay, I'm like gonna press live now because, you know, I'm gonna go live now. Come on. Come on. All right. Am I happy with this thing? No, it's kind of annoying me a little bit. I'm just gonna move this right on out of here. All right, that's better. Kind of. Just leave it, Hannah. It's fine. It's fine. Just leave it. Moving everything around after I get on live stream. Of course, that's how it works. So, welcome on this Sunday afternoon or morning or Saturday evening, wherever you are around the world, of course, at the time of this live stream that I'm going live on. I want to talk about, this is kind of like a world update, this live stream, but it's more sharing my story. I just want to share what I've been going through. So that's kind of like a world energy update because, you know, I shake the world. No, I've been like moving the world. It feels like my world has been moving. Okay, just let me concentrate. I'm nervous about what I want to share. Let's put it that way, okay? Really, I'm nervous about what I want to share. So, let me know how you guys are going because the energies have been like off their rocker, intense. Would you agree? Or not? Maybe you've been in a really good space, but oh my God, intense is like not even describing the word, right? Let alone that one step forward in like 10 steps back, or let's make it 100 steps back, should we? But actually what it is recalibration. Yeah, I really want to talk about this because this has been massive and it's not just me that's been feeling it. And I know I've been quiet, but I've been recalibrating. And this is what I want to talk about, okay? Because I had to go into my little cocoon. I had to sort some stuff out, like on a deep, deep level. And this is what I really want to talk about. So now that that has been shared in the appropriate places, I will put this down, bring this up on here. So if you guys have questions or want to share or like, Hannah, what is going on? Or like, what is happening? Like, please just post away as always. Okay. Hi, Rebecca and Serene. Lee says, hey lady, yep, totally feeling all the feels. Yes, how massive has it been, right? It's been super, super crazy intense. Yeah, massive for sure. Rebecca says, everything has been intense and I've lost a lot. I've had to work out what's more important. Yeah, there's been a bit of that, hey? There's been a lot of that, actually. It's been, yeah, really big. Hey, Alana. Lovely to have you all here. Okay, so I guess I'm like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to start sharing about. I don't know, you know, kind of where to start ultimately. But what I do want to say, yeah, super intense time. Yeah, so number one, remember back in middle of December, I kept saying, I was like, it's going to be intense, like not just the solstice and not just those eclipses in the middle of December, but right until like I said the end of February. Do you remember I said that? I said like, yeah, it would be like this intense, or it's only going to intensify by the end, like towards the end of February. I said this energy is going to be here until the end of February, right? And then I feel like we're going to shift. I don't know how, but I feel like the energy will change a little bit, you know, towards the end of, I say the end of Feb, more like the first week of March will kind of be like, oh, I can breathe again or something, you know, like that's kind of the feels at the moment, right? We're just like, and everything is changing. And this is why I called this live stream recalibration, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. And that's what it has been. And that's what's going on is we're recalibrating, you know, like I always say you're not lost, you're recalibrating, but it's been like the biggest birthing portal. It's been like the biggest changes going on, inside, outside, directions we thought we were going in this direction, and all of a sudden it's like, no, we're not going that direction. And we're like, oh, okay, maybe we're going this direction. Okay, okay, that makes sense. And then it's like, no, not that way either. And it's like, whoa, hang on, like, what's happening here, right? Like, in a big way, yeah? Yes, yeah, Carol says, wow, your post, I'm in total recalibration mode. Yeah, definitely, yes. Hi, Danny. So yeah, it's been like big, crazy, intense times, yeah, and I do feel like, you know, I don't want to say it's going to get more intense by the end of February. I like feel like it's starting to like be okay, like, okay, we can like breathe a little bit, but it's still like, I'm not sure, right? But we are sure, but we're not. Like, these are the real like strong energies at the moment, right? It's not like here or there. It's literally just like, it's kind of like, hello, like, where's the open door? And even things that felt really good, like you were like, yes, this is like, oh my God, like I needed this thing, like maybe even before Christmas, and you were like, yes, this way, and it's this thing. And then all of a sudden, that also doesn't feel good anymore. And it's not that the thing doesn't feel good, it's that maybe just something slightly of it needs to change, or the environment needs to change, or, you know, like it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but it's like, something in the space needs to recalibrate, as well as what you're recalibrating, doing on the bigger picture of how you're using that thing in space in a way, you know. It's a little bit tricky to describe. Lee says, in between identities. Yes, I feel like that's been a big piece from even the end of November last year right up until now, end of Feb, is this identity shift, right? And obviously I've definitely been going through that with my new artwork and, you know, it's like really coming into, well, I'm not that person anymore, but who am I without that stuff? Like, I'm definitely not that person anymore, but I don't know who I am either. Like, you know, and we're kind of like working our butts off, or whatever it is, doing whatever we're doing to move away from that person in life who we were, because obviously there was something better and we felt that we could be better and do better and all that jazz, right? So we do all the things. And now we're kind of like here, and I feel like, especially for me personally, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not that person anymore, but who am I? Even though we're like super clear that we were working towards being a certain person, right? Like that's why we were doing the thing. Yeah, and to have a certain lifestyle, to have a certain like thing of who we are, right? Like a better life, right? And then so like now we kind of reached that point, we're like, yeah, but who am I now? Even though we knew what we were working towards and for, and to be that person, right? And even though we still are, and we're still doing that thing, I want to say it feels different. It doesn't feel different to what we thought it was going to feel like, but there's a big piece of who we're recalibrating into. It's almost like has different feelings and thoughts about the thing. It's like we're still doing it, but we feel different about it. And when we really look into reality about that, that should be happening, right? Like that should be how it is. That should be what it is. We should feel different about the thing. Why? Because when we're like moving from the person and the life who we used to be, and then like we've got this like kind of maybe expectation of what the thing's gonna feel like when we get there, or what it's gonna feel like when we're being that person, right? Because we actually don't know what it's gonna be like, but we're like, yeah, it's gonna be this, or we can imagine and do all the things, right? And then so we kind of like get to that point, and we get to that level, and we get to that experience, and all of a sudden everything shifts. The other thing that's been happening is that everything has been falling away. Everything has just been dissipating out of your life. Like literally things that you thought they were going to be there forever, or thoughts or feelings, or like just like complete belief system drops away. Like I want to say sheds, like the belief systems are shedding, like your skin is shedding, like literally, like it is just all of a sudden you don't think like that anymore. All of a sudden you're just like, I'm not that person anymore. All of a sudden you're like, I don't relate to this person anymore. All of a sudden you're like, my value systems are really different. And then we're like reassessing, we're like, so is this where I'm really meant to be? And we're like, wow, I thought this is where I was meant to be. So where am I going now? And this is where it's like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but like, and what this is ultimately, as Lee said perfectly, it's identity shift, right? Definitely. But I feel it's also like, I don't know what the words are for, like identity awakening, you know, identity of who you really are and the person that you are. When you step into that, everything feels different. So, well, of course it should, but your relationship to everything external from you, and even your relationship to your emotions, your relationship to yourself, it is different and changed. And at the end of the day, I feel like it's more grounded. It's a more stronger sense of who you are. So if anything has happened over this past 6 months, what it has really done is like shifted out all the little fleeting, like, I want to say like cotton thread confidence. I don't know how to describe it. Cotton thread confidence. So it's like you've really come into who you are, and it's like solid. It's solid ground now. It's not just this kind of like whimsical, like, yeah, this is who I am. Like, it feels really like that, right? Hi, Derek. Love you guys too. So Danny says, oh my gosh, spot on. And lately even more people leave my feed, which I notice I attach my identity a bit to. Yeah, that's kind of interesting, right? It's like, oh, if I am with these people, I'm this sort of person. Or if I'm around these people, then I am that. And I feel for me as well, it's like I've come in to realize that I was trying to be someone else than other than who I am. And it's like, that's truth and it's not. Because you know how I just said, like, like we're working towards releasing this old life and this old part of our, like, who we used to be sort of thing. And we're like stepping into this, like, yeah, this is who I am. And, and for me, it's like, yeah, I've had to kind of walk down a path to learn things and show me different aspects of myself. But I didn't realize I'd kind of lost myself getting caught up in like trying to be like them or trying to run my business like them or whatever. I'm like, whoa, like, what was I doing? And you guys are seeing that I've been angry lately, right? Like I've suppressed myself for quite some time. I didn't even realize that I had. And then in one of my blogs that I shared, I was like, oh no, it's like, I used to be like fake surface confident. And now I'm like, this is who I am. Like, it's a definite shift from an external kind of facade to like, ooh, this is what it is, right? And I feel like when we have a grounded sense of who we are, it's not that we don't ever get lost, but I feel like we pull ourselves out quicker and quicker and quicker, and we start to become more self-aware about like where we are compared to other people, associating with other groups or identities of who you think you are. And this is where I like, yeah, it's important to like learn different things and take bits and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but stay connected to your truth, to who you are and your path that you're being led on. And I feel today in such this like, unpredictable world that we now live in, where lockdowns are like here and there and everywhere, it's very easy to like go from here because we're like, which way, what next, So yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Rebecca says, ironed all the creases. Yes, definitely. It's definitely what it feels like for sure. So Danny says, I didn't see that I was doing that identity thing with these two particular people. Very awakening. I know, right? And it's interesting that you say that, because I didn't realize I was doing it either. And when you say like, it's very awakening, like what I feel has happened in whatever collective consciousness planetary lineup shifts that are going on right now, it's almost like we'd gone too far down a path that we just thought that we were supposed to go down. However, pulling back, it's like, well, no, actually, like, that's not what I'm being guided to do. But we kind of get drawn in or led by people, or we don't even realize that we are trying to find ourselves or find something or look for that thing of what we're meant to be doing, because sometimes that's really evasive of like, well, what is it, right? And it's kind of like just, so we're just like, okay, we'll do this thing, and you know, it's kind of like we go to the dead end of the road and then we turn again. And you know, like at the what was it, Elements Festival that I spoke at in December before Christmas, I literally did a talk and I was like, life purpose is like this. It's zigzag, it's wavy, it's not a straight line, right? And so when we feel like we're like, yeah, and then this happens and we're like, all of a sudden we're going this way and we're like, whoa, what just happened here, right? We're like, but it's supposed to be going that way, but all of a sudden we're going this way again. Like, what actually is happening in that space is we're literally still on path. We're meant to learn that bit and learn that bit, and like it's not a straight line, right? Now, someone in that group at the talk asked me, she's like, well, why does it like feel like death, basically? And if we look at when we come to this turning point, it's like we bump into it, so to speak. And then like, if we look at it as a little circle here before the line and we get direction going this way again, like when we look at the little circle here and we kind of get to this wall, everything from our past that we've buried is like bump, it like bumps up, you know, like a car crash jam thing, you know, when like one car stops and they all bump into each other. All your grief from all your past relationships is like, and it's like hitting up against, right? It's like all of a sudden come to a stop, right? And so that's why it can feel like this thing that you're going through is like 50 million, it's like the worst thing in the world, right? And it's not that it isn't bad, but it can feel like that because if you haven't dealt with all the things from your past, they're all bumped up now. It's like, poof, it's like all at once, right? And so that's why when we get to one of these turning points, it can feel like death warmed up, literally, yeah, with all these things coming up. And so we either stop here and recalibrate for a bit and deal with all the stuff that we've kind of left in our past as well. And I feel like right now, to be honest, in myself personally as well, there's been a lot of that going on, particularly at this time, right? It's kind of like, yeah, we can bump and then we keep going again. But at the moment, it's been like, for me, probably about 6 weeks, was the 14th. Oh, it's Valentine's Day today. So happy Valentine's, working out deep self-love and really coming into that space of loving who you are just as you are, no matter what your baggage you're carrying, and walking with that, but facing that, right? Now, when I say you're not lost, you're recalibrating, is literally like all of, you know, like when a compass is like trying to find the direction and it's like, you know, doing its little turny thing, recalibrating, right? It's like, oh, not sure which way to go. We're like, oh, no, it's still turning, right? And so when we're like, then we're about to go again, it might be like it's not completely like recalibrated yet, yeah? So we keep walking forward in that direction. So, yeah. So it's interesting, right? When we say like, well, I didn't see that coming and I didn't realize it'd gone that far. And, you know, we could say, yeah, you sabotaged and you got lost and you did all this thing. And at the end of the day, you were just getting closer and closer and closer. And you're like, whoa, hang on a sec. Actually, that doesn't feel right. Okay, it's this way. But sometimes it just takes a bit. We're like, okay, so what now? Because I didn't see this one coming and like, what's happening here, right? Oh, yeah, the compass analogy, it's beautiful, right? Because especially when we are feeling lost and recalibrating, and like it's really scary. It's really, really scary for people to feel lost and not know which direction to take or which direction we are taking, or like, you know, these rolling lockdowns that are going to be like everywhere around the world, and that's going to be normal, you know, and then it's going to bump up a level probably in about probably about another 18 months or so, and then that'll bump up to the next level of all of that. So yeah, I think that remembering the internal compass, remembering your compass is recalibrating when you're in this space can be really helpful. That doesn't mean that we don't break down crying. It doesn't mean that we don't get angry. It doesn't mean that we regret things. It doesn't mean that, you know, we're like, okay, it's all fine. I'm just recalibrating and like bottle all this stuff up. Like, no, like it's so important to let it out, right? Joy says, I feel so lost today, no one to talk to, it's rough. Yeah, it was so interesting, right? Because I had a photo shoot yesterday, some of you might have seen on my story, and we were going to the final destination. It was the beach, but by this time it was lunchtime and it was so hot and muggy here yesterday, and I struggle in the heat, right? Unless I'm in the water or aircon, I like struggle in the heat, right? I'm just like sweaty and I'm agitated and uncomfortable. I'm like, get me in the water. Anyway, we got to the final location and like, I was just like breaking down in tears, and I'm like driving there going like, what is going on here? Like, this is ridiculous, you know? And I'm like, hey, Hannah, just zip it up, you know, like just pull it together. You got to get this done. And I'm like, no, there's no way that I can just pretend everything's okay on the camera right now. Like for photos, I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, and then I was like having this internal battle with myself driving to the third location. I'm like, I'm not doing it, right? Just whatever. It was just all this other stuff with that. But it was interesting because when we got to the beach and the car park and I met the photographer and the stylist there, and then we were like, you know, I was just like, I'd made an executive decision, and then I was just like, and I just feel like I want to cry, and all of a sudden I just started crying. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. Like, there's so many factors with that, right? But it was interesting because this girl had like come out of the ocean and she's getting in her car, and she walked over to us and she's like, she's beautiful. She's so gorgeous. She's like, is everything all right here? And I'm like, trying to hold back my tears going, yeah. And then she's like, I said, I'm just crying. I'm just crying. She's like, about a boy? And I was like, no. The photographer was like, yeah, not this time. And I'm like, yeah, thank fuck, not this time, but fuck. It was intense, right? And she's like, I've just been crying and I can't stop crying. And she's like, I was in the water and I almost drowned. Like, I thought I was going to drown, you know, and I was just like, oh. It was just kind of a sign that it's in the air. Like, this is some random person at the beach, right, who was also, yes, crying about a boy, but at the same time, like, we've all got our own stuff that we're crying about, or that we're lost about, or that we're just like, what is going on about? And, you know, and I do feel like, I did keep saying, like, middle of December, I'm like, these energies are only going to get more intense by, you know, until the end of February. So whether we've still got another 2 weeks or so of February to go, so whether we're still going to get more intense, like, I feel like it's in waves, you know, like, it's like, okay, cool, we're moving forward. And then all of a sudden it's just like, no, you're not, you know, it's just like, cool. And then it's like, like, it's, you know, it feels very like, yes, okay, like, and then it's like, right? So, yeah, I know, the only thing I regret about that, Danny, is I didn't give her a hug. Like, I was just like driving her going, why didn't I give her a hug? I was upset too. So yeah, definitely in waves, right? It's definite in waves, and just makes me wonder what sort of energy shift we're going to have at the end, beginning of March. I feel like the first week of March might be still a little bit intense, and then by the 6th or 7th of March, it'll just, I feel like it'll either shift to the next level or something. It's kind of like we've just been in this like push-pull kind of, like it's almost like pulling everything apart. And in that, all the threads are like just dropping away, belief systems, like things out of your field, just stuff like, you know, when I say like threads and stuff out of your field, it's almost like whatever was clouding that bit of your intuition, or clouding that bit of your judgment, or clouding that bit of your value system and what's in alignment for you is just being like pulled away. Like, it's just, everything is just being pulled away and everything's recalibrating, but everything that was blocking you is literally just unraveling, just pulling apart, you know, so we can see clearly, so we can remember who we are, so we can actually be on path rather than just getting stuck on this wall sort of thing, right? So if you're still feeling that lost space, like I said, I'm pretty sure I was saying it even before the middle of December. I was like, these energies are going to intensify by the end, until the end of February, like going to hang around until the end of February. So if you're still feeling that way, and you're wondering why everything's like out ahead, it can be good to just have a check-in, like what parts of my life haven't I cleaned up? Like this is, it is Mercury retrograde, I think, as well. It's the perfect time for reevaluating things, for really looking at, all those details that you've been brushing aside or that you've pushed aside, or that like it's the perfect time for it. And even though it's probably the last thing you feel like doing, energetically, it's the best thing that you can be doing right now, right? And I'm just getting the message that, from the energies from like October, November, so whatever like was surfacing around October, November last year for you is kind of like cleaning up from then, right? We're cleaning up and it's like clearing the slate ready, So yeah, and that was it the Chinese New Year? It's so interesting, right? Chinese New Year is the last of the New Years, and it's like, okay, we can move forward now. Like that's the kind of energy about it, right? It's kind of interesting on a world scale. So yeah, that's interesting. So Doreen says it's been a very painful week for me. I think I've come down with some anxiety and extreme sadness. Yes, yeah, anxiety, sadness, and it just hits like a wave. Like literally yesterday when I was crying, like my daughter was also crying, and then that woman got out of the ocean, she was crying. I was like, yeah, this is bigger than us. Like I just don't, in the middle of a photo shoot, just break, down. Like I probably maybe would have pulled myself together if I didn't get photos all morning. Like I know we got some amazing stuff already, but it was just like, what is this? Like it was just all these things left, right and center. It was crazy and just like out of the blue, it was just like a switch. So it was kind of really interesting. Okay, so what else do I want to talk about? Recalibration. I feel like we need to do a course or something on recalibration, but I'm like, yeah, I've got some things coming. So does anyone have any questions about this recalibration? So a big thing that I wanted to share as well about my own personal recalibration, and people are going to be like, she changes stuff all the time. And I do change stuff all the time. This is how it is. This is what I do. I'm messy. I'm loud. I'm truthful. I'm always following the truth no matter which path or direction that's going. I'm always, trusting each step of the way and moving forward. So at the end of December, I said that I wasn't doing one-off sessions anymore, and I wasn't doing distance healings, and the only way you could work with me is in the 21, in my inner circle, right? And ever since I said that, it was between Christmas and New Year, and I kept getting asked, and I'm like, every single day, since I have said, no, I'm not doing it anymore, I literally had a message, like a Facebook message, an email, or an Instagram message of people asking me if I do readings, if I'm doing distance healings, why aren't you doing that? Like, I'm like, and it got so intense, towards the end of last week it was, and I was like, oh my God, again? I'm like, I just every day, literally every day, I'm like, okay, I've really got to sit down with this and just take this to meditation, because I'm like, I thought I wasn't supposed to be doing this anymore. It was just, I'm just like, what is happening? Every day for 6 weeks, I'm like, this has got to say something, this is a bit crazy. I'm like, okay. So I took it to meditation, and it was another part of this awakening into the identity of me, of what we've been talking about, right? I was like, I serve people through my spiritual guidance, through my intuitive guidance, through my psychic readings. That is what I do. That is always what I've done. I'm like, why? Okay, that makes sense now, right? So I am now offering, Joy says it's a sign. Yes, exactly. I was like, this is every day for 6 weeks, that's a lot. It was just in my face. And I'm like, okay. So I have learned a lot, and there's been a bit of processing, because I'm like, well, I've told everyone I'm not doing it anymore, and and all this stuff came up about it, right? And I was like, well, at the end of the day, I'm like, if I'm being shown what I'm meant to be doing, and I'm also not listening to that, well, I'm not really listening to my intuition then, am I? I know that I stopped it back when I did at Christmas around that time. And I also know that I needed that space. I needed that what, like I said, it's middle of February. I'm like, it's the middle of February already. I'm like, where did 2021 go already? But it's like, I needed that 6 weeks of recalibration to really come into who I am, what I'm doing, really step away from like everything and everyone. And I've removed myself from groups and like stepping away from so much stuff. I needed that space to be able to see what I'm doing. Right? Danny says, wow, yeah, of course, this is who you are. Exactly, right? I'm like, man, haven't you seen my card collection? I'm like, Hannah, like, look, like, you guys in the Reality Awareness support group, you've seen my card collection, right? So it was like a really big deal for me to really separate myself, be in this space around not knowing what I'm meant to be doing because I got lost. So Danny as well, you know how you said you like, those people you moved away from or whatever, like you didn't realize you had attached or become them or whatever you said, right? That's what I realized I'd done. So no wonder I was depressed and, you know, down or whatever it was, because I was trying to fit a mold of somebody else's business, of ideas. That's not who I am, like, you know, and I got lost in that, thinking that I had to do that to be somebody, to be good enough to get ahead, to expand my business. And I was like, man, like, Hannah, like, look at the business you have built, like, look at what you've been guided to do intuitively and every step of the way, like, look what you've done. You know, it was almost like not seeing myself because I got so lost in everything, you know. And then again, processing it, I was like, well, you know, to be honest, 2020 was a wipe for me. So you know how, like, I've been saying, I don't know if I wrote it or something, like 2000 and I'm good now, right? So obviously I've shifted something because I'm like trying to remember what I was saying. I kept thinking it was 2019 last year. Like I was still in 2020. Like 2020 was a wipe for me. Like I'm like 2020 is not there. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, COVID hit and blah, blah, blah. But for me, in 2019, I was kind of like at a plateau and I was like, okay, what am I doing? And, you know, I really got caught up in other people's stuff and, you know, in different ways I thought I had to be in the world and really suppress my voice. And then it was almost like spirit kind of shook me up. So in 2020, I went on the road trips unexpectedly. Like that was on a whim of intuition, right? It was so many ways. On a 5-month road trip in the car with my daughter and all our animals, and went on the road for 5 months. It shook so many things up. And it also shook up a lot about what I need to set up in my business structurally to be able to give myself more time, to be able to even understand what I do in my business. And I know that sounds crazy, but after like 3 years of just like tunnel vision of like, at that time, yeah, it was 3 years of like tunnel vision of just like, I don't know what I'm doing in my business, but this is what I need to do. And really just doing every single day. Like I came online to teach online courses, and whilst I have online courses, I got so busy with clients like unexpectedly. No, that's not true, right? I literally created that. Yeah, I created that through my journaling practice, through, you know, attraction marketing and growing my business in that way, right? And that's why I got so busy. But I also didn't know how to, it's not I didn't know how to handle a business. I didn't know how to separate business from life, from my, I don't know what it was, right? Talk about getting lost in things. I'm like, I kind of did, but I also needed to do that because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just trusting my intuition and doing each next thing. And so now, like, you know, going on those road trips for 5 months and then coming back and in a week moving house, like after being in that house for 8 years, like that was a big deal. That was a big deal, right? That was huge. And I feel like when we being on the road for 5 months and then moving house, there was 5 months of work to catch up on, let alone the mess of moving house after 8 years. And just, I'm like, hang on a sec, it's 2021. I'm like, hang on a sec. I've been, even when someone messaged me and she's like, oh, Hannah, just so you know, you've been writing like 2020 on your like live streams, like in my private groups and the support calls. And I'm like, what? I was like, oh my God, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's recalibrate, Hannah. Like, it's 2021. Oh my goodness. So it's really, really interesting, right, to now come into this space around, like, I had to, after all of that and just kind of being on the road, moving house, catching up on business and trying to like, hang on a sec, what just happened? Like processing it all. This 6 weeks of recalibration has like really got me clear. I'm like, okay, Spirit, like, what do you want me to do? Like, what is my service role in reality awareness? What is it reality awareness is doing? What is it that I'm doing? Like, really getting clear on all these details and also how I work in amongst that, right? So really having stronger boundaries in place, really coming into a place of being able to be in the highest vibration to be able to support people where they're at and support me at the same time, right? So really coming into looking at all those aspects and, you know, and after stopping it because I'm like, hey, I'm not meant to do this anymore. And then like 6 weeks of like, are you doing psychic readings? Are you doing this? Are you doing distance healings? And I'm like, like what's happening here? I'm like... So I'm a bit excited because it took me a little bit to actually get clear on what I do offer, because I definitely didn't want to offer as much as I was before to work one-on-one. So the options to work one-on-one is I'm doing the 45-minute psychic readings. So because that's what I do. I do psychic readings all the freaking time. I've always got my cards out. I personally use them a lot. And they've always helped me. Like, honestly, the psychic readings and... oh yeah, is this Mermaids and Dolphins deck is literally what started my spiritual awakening for me. Well, the first tool that I ever had, right? So it's like, this is what I do. So I do now offer one-on-one 45-minute psychic readings. They are audio recorded as well, so you can listen back anytime. I did get guided to do the distance healings as well. And with the distance healings comes a psychic reading phone call as well as part of the package. So you'll get your distance healing, which is audio recorded, and then I send it to you, and then we'll book a time for your call and we can go over that as well. So it's a bit more, I want to say, support in the distance healing rather than, hey, like, here's your distance healing and that's it sort of thing, right? Because they do shift a lot. They can be really confronting with what comes up in the distance healing. So distance healing, there's there as well. The 21-day shifter program is what I'm also offering as well. So the 21-day shifter, you actually get 2 45-minute psychic reading phone calls in that space and the distance healing, and you get 3 weeks of unlimited one-on-one support via text message and voice message on Telegram. And obviously there's unlimited psychic readings in there as well, because that's what I do. I was like, okay, I see now. And then obviously there's the inner circle, which is my 12-month program. So I feel really excited to have like finally got clear, especially after everyone's like messaging me for like 6 weeks straight. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, you know, at the end of last week or middle of last week, I was just like, what is happening here? Like this, so it's pretty phenomenal. So yes. So yeah, definitely that. And so Joy said you needed a break. Yeah, I did need a break. I think after being on the road for 5 months and then moving house and then just like go of work, like I was just like, you know, like that was a whole recalibration in itself last year. But now it's like, okay, like I can do this, but I also, you know, plan my time within that, have stricter boundaries on, you know, my personal time, my work time, all of that. So, you know, and anyone's like, well, that should be a no-brainer, Hannah. And it's like, well, you haven't walked in my shoes. So this is where it's at now. So yes. So Richard says, sometime in October, end of December, it was especially rough for me. Yes, at the same time, I did a week of crystalline chakra activations, but now you're good. Yeah, it shifts stuff. It definitely shifts stuff, right? Doing the inner work shifts stuff. Like, it's a thing. And this is where I say, like, for example, with the distance healing, you also get a follow-up 45-minute phone call, because it does shift a lot, right? And I think it's so important to have that support. So that's also included in there as well. Yeah, it does shift stuff. And it also, you know, like when you do distance healing, or like you did a week of crystalline chakra activations, like if you dive into that for a week, for example, like that's a lot. right? And so then it's like a bit of time recalibrating. Like I'd give that a good like 8 to 12 weeks of recalibration energetic time, because you dive so deep in, and then it's like everything needs to adjust in your physical and like physical and spiritual environment of your body, life, everything will shift from that, right? So yeah. Yes. So Richard says, my spiritual awakening started with a steel wizard tarot and a pendulum. Ah, that's amazing. I love that. Ah, I love the wizards. They're so cool. Yes, it is exciting. I know. Yes, I keep my pendulums on my desk here as well. Got lots of different ones. This is the angel light. And this is probably, I was going to say it's probably the only one. No. I do have another one. This end has been broken off, that one, but I still will use them. This is lepidolite. I don't really see much lepidolite, but it's actually my purpose stone, which is conscious feeling. Would you believe it or not? Lepidolite is conscious feeling. So amongst all of this recalibration, I've also redone my website, so I feel really excited to have that all up to date again. And you guys probably already seen that I released the Clear and Activate pack, and the Clear and Activate pack is also I want to say a big deal in a sense. Like, you know, after doing what I've done for the past few years, like solidly working with clients, like full on, you know, like when I tell people, they're like looking at me weird, and I'm like, isn't this normal? And they're like, no, Hannah. I'm like, okay, let me just hang on a sec. So I'm like, what do you mean it's not normal? So working with so many clients, I learned so much about myself, them, spirituality, all the messages that came through, and the intricate dynamics of like human relationships, spirit relationships, the intertwining of past lives, and all this, the significance of deep into the psyche of a human, right? And so with the Clear and Activate pack, you know, if you've got my free meditation pack, the Clear and Activate pack is similar in a sense that there's MP3s in there, but the Clear and Activate pack is specifically around 4 stages of human consciousness, if you want to put it like that. It is the pack, and every empath must have this Clear and Activate pack. So if you've worked with me one-on-one, you've probably got a lot of the, depending what you did with me in that space, you might already have it. But in the Clear and Activate pack, it's an empath's essentials, right? Because as an empath, we feel everything. We feel everything tenfold, triplefold. Like, oh, that's not as much. It's big, right? We feel the volcanoes in the country next door, let alone the neighbors next door, or someone we're thinking about on the other side of the planet, or we feel it all, right? And you know, as like we can clear our energy and clear our chakras, but we don't feel as clear as what we use in that Clear and Activate pack. So if you're an empath, if you're a sensitive person, if you're conscious in any way or feel energy in any way, or you're just starting on this journey and you feel like a mess or clouded, or you want to increase your psychic abilities, please grab my Clear and Activate pack. It is, the link is in the title of this live stream, but I'll also put it in the comments now as well. And it's literally, I've got training videos in there, MP3s, and there's a PDF you can download as well. So all the instructions are in there, but there is they're in a specific order for a specific reason. And in the training videos in there, I go through and explain why, how we use them, why we use them, and when we should use them. And so it can give you a good understanding there of getting the best out of that. So that's free. And I was actually a little bit surprised when I got guided to put that together for people, but also I wasn't surprised at the same time, because literally, like, this is like an empath's essentials to be able to have clear energy, because sometimes this clearing our chakras doesn't work, okay? And of course, there's always deeper, you know, aspects to it, you know, if there's deeper trauma or something like that. But there's some days where we're just like, man, this clearing chakra stuff just doesn't work. And working deeper with this in the Clear and Activate pack for the Empath Essentials really helps on such a deep level. So yeah, really working with that. So the Clear and Activate pack is in there. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. We've also got Intuitive Healing Tuesdays, which I'm really excited about holding. We've been holding them for a couple of weeks now in the Reality Awareness support group. And this is where you can ask me any question. It is not a psychic reading as such in the Intuitive Healing Tuesdays. It's literally intuitive healing every Tuesday. So it's free as well, and it's in my Reality Awareness support group on Facebook. So you can type in the Facebook search bar Reality Awareness support group and it will come up, and you can request to join. And literally you can ask me any question about anything that's going on in your life in that space as well, and literally we'll be giving you advice based on whatever intuition comes through and explaining how to heal and what's going on there for you on a deep intuitive level. So that is there for you as well. So send me a message if you can't find that Reality Awareness Facebook support group. Otherwise, if you're in there, we'll see you on Tuesday, which I really love doing them. So yeah, you're so welcome, Joy. Thanks for joining me live, guys. If you think that this can help somebody, or if you really, really resonate with it, please share it with them, and know that this is a pretty tough portal. It's a pretty big birthing portal right now, and anything that is not in alignment will be dropping away from your field. Anything that you thought was gonna be here and it's not, grieve your heart out about it, because grief is so important to get out of those. We get anxious and we can't sleep and all the things, right? If there's any change going on in your life, let yourself be sad about it. It's okay. Like, it's change, you know, or if you've lost someone or something, like, you should be crying about it. Don't hold that in, because it's just going to make the situation worse, and you're going to feel worse, and you're going to wonder what's wrong with you, and there's nothing wrong with you. You're just going through immense change. Yeah. So send me a message if you've got any questions, and I shall see you guys really soon. I love you. We're getting through this together. See you soon.